Welcome to the new Overlords Podcast, a video game show where I'm joined every week by someone whose knife would never chip and shatter. It's Sema. Hello there, Sema.
Yeah, don't you Dune curse me. You're damn right it would never chip and shatter.
Sema will stick you with the slow blade, though. And
oh yeah, 'cause that slow blade, that's the only kind of blade I have anyway, so.
It's it's not slow because I'm trying to penetrate your shield. It's because I'm kind of tired and lethargic.
Kind of tired. Didn't get my nap today.
It's not the slow blade, it's the lethargic blade.
Right.
I don't think that. Yeah.
So I think that's your way of mentioning that you might have played some Dune this weekend.
I sure did play some Dune. So it was Monday to halfway through, or it was Friday morning to Monday afternoon. And I played, believe it, at dozens of hours over that time period. Enough to really stretch the boundaries and get to all the edges of the game. So we're definitely going to be able to talk about that today and how far I got. Enabled me to really get a feel for the early game, all of the early game, and then some of the feel for the end, mid game, and then some line of sight to the towards the end game, but barely, because it might take you hours and hours, like 100 hours to even get to the deep desert where the end game kind of happens. So we'll be able to talk about that quite a bit today. I'll have to try to rein myself in.
I mean, I've read even it could be like 100 to 150 hours to get to the deep desert.
If you want to play casually and you want to sort of, well, we'll get to it.
Okay.
I'm already going on. Because we have other things to talk about first in the news.
Good news, everyone.
First up in the news, we had a SWTOR 7.7 dev stream. Really good to see our friends back online doing a little bit of walkthrough of the 7.7 update that's coming. And you put a date in here, didn't you?
Yeah, late May, early June is the date so far.
Late May, early June. That's like next week.
Yeah, it's coming. It's soon.
Yeah, so that is
There's a lot,
thing.
and there's a lot coming in 7.7. I would characterize it sort of as a quality of life type of update, because there is some substantial quality of life stuff in here. No story yet, for reasons probably they don't say this, but probably it's the voice actor strike, which is ongoing. And yeah, no new flashpoint in this or operation, of course, anything like that.
Right.
But there is a master mode version for
Lieutenant Dan.
yeah.
I know it's got another name. Don't even worry about it.
And I know what XR53, relentless replication. Yes. And they show the amount that you get if you do the master. You have a chance of getting it if you do master mode. And this is going to this was an interesting comment that Bryant made, which was that mount drop is the first time they will have done bad luck protection on a mount drop.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Did he say whether or not the anti-max code will still be there? Because I bet it will.
Yeah, I have a feeling it will.
Bad luck protection, except for Max.
Right. Max has good luck protection.
Protection against good luck. Yes. I'm scrolling down in the window here trying to find a picture of it. I know it's in here. Oh, here it is. Replication throne mount. Because it's pretty cool looking. It's a hover chair, and it's got the Lieutenant Dan nubbins on the bottom.
Right.
You're hovering around on.
It's him from the waist down. It's like his pelvis and his nubbins.
It sounds disturbing. It's cooler than our description. Let's just.
But I mean, the rest of his torso and his arms and his head are all not there. So
no, it's sort of like a mechanical looking mount. It's got like rusted metal around it, and some of the tubes that are part of the model the hover.
I have to say, for
nubs,
all the
but
hover
I think it looks
chair
cool.
type of mounts, I think this one looks the coolest.
I would agree. I mean, the hover chairs are the throne mounts, and the hover chairs are cool, but this is the coolest of them. You're right. I kind of like it. And then it's got a active ability where you can get this hover shield that pops up around it, or this hollow shield, a red one or a blue one or both. Or does it cycle between them? I didn't really get that.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. That's the flourish, I think, but I don't know if you choose between them or if you just start it out and it does both of them.
I kind of like this. How it was
I'm not
kind of
clear,
like
and
open.
I personally will probably never know because I'm not going to kill XR53 on master mode anytime soon.
Yeah, we are not master mode players for operations, unfortunately. Yep. Yeah. So
Another
this
thing
is
I'll just say, they're adding, and this release is really good for people that are coming back after an absence, because a lot of the quality of life stuff is kind of centered around, so you haven't logged in for a long time. How do you situate yourself? Where were you in the story? How do I play my class? What are the obvious things? How do I get where I'm going? What are all these things in my quest log, and where do they happen? Because now they're going to put so that in your quest log, you can click on a button. It will take you to the galaxy map, and you can click on the planet where you're supposed to go for that mission.
And what did you say Eric called that process?
Clickety slam dunk, clickety clack.
Slam dunk, clickety clack, you there.
However, that is not my favorite expression from that live stream. My favorite expression came from Bradley Lewis, the art director, who said, "If you're like me, and I know I am." I don't even remember what came after that.
Doesn't matter. That wins it right there. If you're like me, and I know I am. Yeah. So they're continuing to do these little updates across the game. They're doing updates to the character models. They're doing updates to textures. They're doing updates to UI, and this UI updates to the mission window, and it like removing a couple of redundant things, cleaning it up, adding a little bit more functionality. Not a lot, but a little bit more. But just cleaning it up. But tell me about the Eras, the Taylor Swift Eras tour. Oh, here.
Yes. Yeah. See, you can see the tab in that picture, but it's
here we go.
It's between, or the way they showed it was between the Conquest tab and the Mission Log tab, and basically it tells you where you are in the story on that character.
On that character, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
okay.
it gives you like an overview of where you like it'll, and in chunks, right? Like you can scroll through it. Like I've done Revan, and I've done this, but I didn't do Onslaught, or I didn't do this. And there's also a button in there that you can click on the trailers, any available trailers for that. It doesn't go to the detail of telling you like what decisions you've made or what companions you might have gotten back or lost or whatever. It's still just the story summary paragraph.
Yeah.
Like it's probably the same paragraph that you see when you log in, I'm guessing. But I think one of the things that's really hard about coming back to an MMO after an absence, any MMO, and a story-driven one like this one, even more so, it's just like, where am I?
Yes.
Like, what's
where
happening
is this
around me?
character? That's the thing. I glossed over this when I first saw it. I only read the first line. I didn't read the second line, which explained exactly in detail. Because I'm like, Sema's like, oh, this looks really cool. I'm like, does it? And to me, I thought it was just like a codex entry. It was like, this is what Rise of the Hutt Cartel is. We already have that in the codex entry. No, it's for that character. Yeah. Called, sort of pointed that out. And because you get on an old alt. So even people that play every day, you get on an old alt and you're like, well, did I do the chap? What if I who am I? What is my purpose? You pass butter. Oh my God. You hold bank alt crap. Oh my God.
And I know
that's half of my characters.
They put that play trailer button in there too. Like you can see all these on anytime on YouTube, right? But it's kind of nice to just like, maybe you're scrolling through and you go, oh yeah, what was that one again? And play the trailer.
And then it shows you what eras you have to play to unlock this era. whether it's locked or not. Yeah, this is useful. Man, like I think the other stuff is not useful, but yeah, there's a lot to that this a significant bit of utility that this brings to the table, which I appreciate. Yeah. Oh, and even if it requires a subscription or not, like if it's something you haven't, like if you're playing free to play and you haven't like unlocked it yet because you weren't subscribed during this time, it shows that you're not, you would need to subscribe. For people that aren't familiar, I think Star Wars: The Old Republic does have one of the better free-to-play preferred models. If you subscribe for 1 month, you get a bunch of just like all of the basic unlocks of everything possible that you could do in the game and all content up to the current content of the game. It all just unlocks. And then when you go back to free, so say you only did it for 1 month, you pay the $15, you only do 1 month, and then you go back to completely free, no subscription or anything. You will have some restrictions, and that's like on, you can only have so many credits, and you don't lose anything, but it like goes into escrow until you unlock it again. But during that, but all the content stays. You'll just be able to then work in and out of the subscription, the restrictions that you potentially had, work around them. You're also getting, for that month that you subscribed, an allocation of cartel coins that you could use to buy some of the permanent unlocks too. So it's useful. And this being able to just like show you what remains or what is ahead of you in the content tree is kind of cool too.
And they're adding to the map. I don't know if everyone's going to like this, but this sounds just right up my alley, where you can get a drop down of quick travel points so that you can click on them from a list.
Oh, so if somebody says, "Hey, let's go to Jagged Plains,"
yeah,
like with your eyeballs. Yeah,
right.
Actually, that's a really good idea.
And also, like, even though you can see it with your eyeballs, sometimes there's other icons, and you're kind of like trying to click on the corner of the quick travel icon to actually engage it. And they introduced something they call breadcrumbs for dynamic encounters, where the dynamic encounters on a planet, there's also a drop-down list of them. Or not, I don't know if it's the whole planet or just the zone where you're in.
Yeah.
Because they said nearby you. I don't know what that means. And they said, so then you can click on one of those and it gives you a breadcrumb. I don't know what that means exactly. I don't think it's not going to be a quick travel, because they didn't call it quick travel. It's not going to take you there. But I do think that one of the things, I'm happy if they make the travel between dynamic encounters better, because I feel like when I go to a planet to do dynamic encounters, I spend as much time traveling from one to the next as actually doing them.
Yeah. Yeah, this is again another nice bit of quality of life that they're adding to the game. And then they're also yeah, go ahead.
PvP Season 8's coming. Yeah.
So some of those like repeating things that we expected. PvP Season 8, unlock sale, stuff added to the cartel market that's really cool. Nightlife.
Nightlife. The unlock sale is going on right now. This is not part of this. It's going on right now, and it's done after this weekend. So
you might get on it.
Yeah.
Those unlock sales are really useful. That's if you've unlocked something for one character, especially like a cartel market item, you bought it off the auction house for in-game currency. You can pay a small amount of the cartel coins, the paid currency, which you could have gotten free in lots of sources, even in-game sources. You can pay to unlock it for all your characters across your legacy. That's what that's what we typically use the unlock sales for. And that's the way I get a lot of my cosmetics is I'll buy them with in-game currency and then just use my like monthly sub cartel coins to unlock it for all my characters and clickety clack splat blam. There you go.
Me too. Although for some reason I've started to get more hoardy about my in-game credits than my cartel coins lately. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but I'm like, do I really want to spend a few million on this when I could just pop a few coins on it? I mean, I have a backlog of coins too.
Yes. the the time it takes. I've thought about this before. It says you could use real world money to buy cartel coins, right? Or you could grind in game to get the equivalent in game currency to buy the same item off the auction house or whatever. And if your return on investment is lower than minimum wage, if you're making like $2 an hour in like grinding out that in game currency, well, maybe it's worth it to throw a couple bucks.
It's not the only factor, though. It isn't the only other factor. I've thought about that before too. Just even farming and spending credits is sort of like, but if I wanted to do this farm anyway, like I'm having my coffee and I want to go kill a bunch of stuff anyway, that's a factor. Even though the thing I want to buy is only 2 credits on the GTN, maybe I do want to just go gather it instead or whatever. And
I also joke about that, about how just spend the real world money, but I never do. I never spend real world money on cartel markets or cosmetics. I always grind it out in game because that's the game.
It is the game.
I'm a PvE player. It's not like I'm only there for PvP, and I pay the real money so that I can like show off that I have real money to other players or something. I like that grind. Paying the real world money to like deprive myself of game content seems like the worst deal to me.
I mean, I think that's part of the appeal for me for WoW Hardcore is that sometimes I do just, grind out mobs because, I don't want to do that quest that's in that horrible cave over there.
Yeah.
I just stand out here and kill the safe mobs.
Yeah, just kill boars. Like there's like that South Park episode where they just killed boars over and over until level 60.
Right. That's me.
Exactly.
I did get a tell from someone because I was near a cave quest. And he said, oh, do you have such and such a quest? And I'm like, no.
No.
And I said, no, I'm just killing mobs for cloth and wasting time right now. And then he goes, oh, will you help me with it then? And I'm like, my mind, I'm going, what? No.
Negative, Ghost Rider. The pattern is full.
What I said to him, though, I'm kind of proud of myself for being just direct. I said, yeah, no, I'm not going in that cave. And he goes, haha, I get it.
And it might be a clue to him as well. Maybe they're a newer player, but
he was a new player. He told me later, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if you're new, please be careful in that cave. And he goes, oh yeah, I know.
Okay.
He did survive. It was the ogre cave in Duskwood, the one where you have to go all the way to the back and get the monocle off the named ogre. I'm not going in there. I don't want that monocle that much.
No. Because it's the respawns that get you. Like you may be able to be careful and get all the way in there.
Right.
It's the respawns that
and you don't control you don't control when they respawn. Sometimes it's a good long time, but if there's a bunch of people in the area, that affects how fast they respawn. And there's a lot of people playing hardcore right now. I mean, enough to affect spawn rates anyway.
And boy, if you haven't played it in a while, I did this a little bit in hardcore. I haven't played, if you haven't played it in a while, you don't know what's supposed to be in there. And like somebody was in there like 5 minutes before you. So you just like go waltz and into it. Right. I'm just supposed to walk through back here. And then all of a sudden, like between you and the whole entrance, 50 mobs spawn behind you. And you're like, oh crap.
Like one thing Lara said is
made a terrible mistake.
Never go in a cave unless your Hearthstone is up.
That's a good point. Yeah. Otherwise you'll be like cowering in the back.
It's a 1 hour cooldown. So
you're like cowering in the back for an hour. Speaking of WoW, getting back to news, WoW got a little bit of announcement. I need you to break it down for me to figure out what's going on here, because it sounds like a great idea for MMOs in general. So tell me about it.
Yeah, so this is starting yesterday. WoW calls it Turbo Boost. And what it is a period of time for you to catch up on gearing with your alts and also leveling. So there's XP boost, and this is a period of time. It's sort of like the back half of season 2. So like all the stuff that we struggled to get and waited for drops and all that stuff, now you can get a little bit easier. You can level easier. There's catch-up gears for your alt. They're not going to be as geared as your main, theoretically, or they might be depending on how you play. But so there's that. Then there's also, it's an opportunity for raiders to fill in their missing pieces of gear. Like if there's a ring, for instance, is it a ring or a neck? It's a ring that pretty much is best in slot for every class. If you never got that ring, you can buy it off a vendor now with the currency that you'll be getting in this event. But you have to have killed the boss that it drops off.
Okay. So it's almost like extra bad luck protection. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So like I can buy that ring, only the heroic mode version though.
Sure.
Like I can't buy the mythic one because I never killed that boss on mythic. So.
Oh, that's great. That's nice.
Yeah, that is kind of nice because it's sort of like.
Can you get like Baron Stratholme's mount? Or
this is
like that's actually, what you want. What
this
the
is
Lich
for
King's sword or whatever.
What I'm thinking about is for like current gear upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I actually don't know if there's a mount that you can buy. There might be stuff you can buy with the currency that I'm not thinking about, but the currency that they introduced is one of those timed ones. So like in the first week you get 3 tokens and then 1 token per week for the next few weeks. So all you get is like 8 or 9 tokens. You have to think about how you want to spend them. So you can get 3 pieces of gear.
Okay. Jaster's Diamond, that's what Lucy says.
Jaster's Diamond. I never got that in a drop. I did, however, get my best in slot. Well, I don't know if this is good or bad, but last week I got my best in slot weapon from the Great Vault.
Ooh.
This week I got the same weapon, but a track higher. So heroic mode instead of champion mode, which is
nice.
Yeah.
That feels good. The weapon feels good.
Yeah. I wish I would have got. So now I have 2 of them, right? I have the heroic one and then the slightly lesser champion one. I wish I would have picked something else last week, but you know what?
Yeah.
Hindsight and all that.
Then you wouldn't have got it this week.
Yeah, true. True.
So that's how that works. What is this? What am I looking at here? This mechanical T-Rex.
Okay, that is one of the boss fights in Undermine, which is the current raid.
Okay, so you can't get that as a hunter pet?
No, not
because
that
I have
guy.
one of those in Arc. Let me tell you, I just got a robot Giga. Yeah, Giganotosaurus.
I saw those pictures. Those look awesome.
That I was amazed that on the new map Asteros, the spawns seem a little bit higher, and you have the chance for the tech versions of the dinos. The tech versions are like the robot versions. They kind of look like Horizon Zero Dawn robot creatures. I really like those models. They look really cool. They're cool designs. They have glowy parts, emissive textures and that kind of thing. Anyway, Giganotosaurus is like one of the biggest ones, and it's hard to get. And so I found a tech
in
one.
Narshada Nightlife. There's going to be a holo Rancor that you can get.
Oh, cool.
So it's kind of a tech Rancor too. It's like you can see its metal frame.
Yeah, that is cool. I've got one holo Rancor that I ride around on, but I can have a better one. But yeah, that was, if anybody knows Arc, finding the high level versions of dinos is really the key. And I did. So I got this hike, and the tech versions of dinos can go above 150. So it was above a 150 Giga that I found. It was like a 168 or something.
What is Giga short for?
Giganotosaurus. It's like twice as tall as a T-Rex, and it looks like a T-Rex.
Nice.
It's just it's a crazy dino monster.
Chad T-Rex.
They're so big you can't like bring them to any boss fights. You can only use them for like outside bosses and stuff like that. But you can like stomp around on this thing, basically eat anything except other Giganotosauruses out in the real world. I'll look one up while we're chatting. But
another thing coming to WoW, and it's going to be next week. It's part of this release, but it's delayed till next week. Not for bad reasons. That's just how they do it. Is Horrific Visions, which is something that we went through in Battle for Azeroth, which is a few X packs back. And I was watching this sort of little trailer they gave. I don't know if I'm going to play in Horrific Visions this time. I'll be interested to see, because I was watching the little teaser trailer and just having flashbacks of a bad time. So I don't want to get hooked into that again.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, especially since it was kind of grindy last time too.
And it's
Because like
different
keep
this
doing it
time
over and
for
over,
one-
right?
For one time, you get a companion, which you didn't
Oh,
before.
Right. Nice.
And I think it's probably going to be similar to having the companion that you get in Delves, in which case I'm pretty familiar with the decisions that the companion makes and how they make them. And there's levels of it. There were levels of it before, but see, that's how I got sucked into it before, because you do the easy level and you go, oh, just one more level and I can get this other cool thing. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, here's these tech dinos.
Yeah, that's
That is
very
a
cool.
Very, very cool monsters. And the gigas are giant. They're just ginormous. There are bigger dinos in the game, but gigas they're also terrifying if you ever encounter one. Like you think a T-Rex is bad. These guys can like one bite and kill you.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that
I did. Lucy's asking if I did the thing in Hellfell. I did it one time. I
One
feel
time.
bad. I feel like I should go back.
once-
Yeah, there's always a bigger dino. I feel like that's a reference to ask.
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
I cannot do Undermine World Quest or Halifal special event because I have to go and kill rats in Hardcore WoW instead.
It's important. You got to grind those
Well-
rats all the way to level 60.
Yep.
Well, that idea of the turbo boost, one, it reminds me of the turbo button I had on my 486, my gateway PC 486, the turbo button that did nothing. Also, yeah, it's just a great idea, and I think more games should have that for alt catch up, because you have so many alts out there. It's just really nice to be able to like bring them along and not have to just grind through over and over and over again. So also then coming soon, tomorrow, that Sema and I may be just checking out a little bit over the weekend because it's on Game Pass, is Doom: The Dark Ages. It's not-
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely check it out and get play the beginning.
I was
make a
thinking about
character
that.
and
You keep saying that, and I believe you that you are, but you seem kind of like hyped over this Doom: The Dark Ages. Whereas Claire Obscure,
because
Expedition 33 was out there, which is like in French, which you're a Francophile, and you like speak French, and it's a beautiful game and the story. But no, you're gonna play Doom: The Dark Ages.
I'm not gonna actually click on things. I'm just gonna watch the opening.
No, you are. You're gonna be murdering demons with chainsaws.
No, they're gonna be murdering me. I tell you what, I bought Doom one time and I played it for like 5 minutes and the first jump scare came and I'm like, nope.
From what it sounds like, we'll have to see. From what it's, I listened to a couple of the IGN UK podcast guys. Listen to our podcast first, then go listen to theirs. They have a good game podcast. Anyway, they said there's some really cool, even if you crank it down to the low modes, there's just so many like superhero moments of like, you do like this, you drop from the sky and do the superhero landing, and all the demons that were like underneath where you were landing just like turn to paste and like explode away from you. And the shield is a big part of this game, so that's going to be fun to see and try out a little bit. But it's like Captain America's shield. You can like whip it across the field and bonk demons in the head and do a bunch of stuff like that. It's not just a shield, though. It's also got like a chain. The rim of the shield is a chainsaw, because why not? So you got that going for you, which is nice. Yeah.
How Middle Ages.
Yes. Yeah. Those middle-aged chainsaws. They ran on Steam, but
Right.
And then on May 30th, we will have Elden Ring Night Rain, which will wrap up the last of the big, giant anticipated releases for May. June is a weird month. We will have Dune coming out in the beginning of June. And then we're going to have a weird period because the Switch 2 is launching and 50 games are launching, in June. But it's all the games that have come out the last 2 years, all like the big AA, AAA games, the popular games. They're all like, so the launch calendar is filled on these game websites, but it's all just like the Switch 2 version of Palia, the Switch 2 version of blah, 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 the Switch 2, and then like the Mario Kart game is coming out on the Switch 2. And so there's only a couple games really coming out in May of the big, highly anticipated ones. For me, it'll be Dune, and I'll just be playing that all month anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. But there's not a lot then, even for the rest of June or even into July. The next bigger one, I wouldn't even say bigger, and I'm going to have to do a walkthrough list again, but it's not till the end of July that like the next one on my radar to make sure I play comes out, which is the Tales from the Shire, Lord of the Rings, cozy survival gardening, like Palia, but you're an Hobbiton kind of game comes out. So we'll see. It might be a little bit of a calmer period in the summer and we can catch up on some stuff. Check out RuneScape Dragon Wilds. I'll be playing tons and tons of Dune, and then doing a bunch of work on Garden and a Goat, because we are going to be pushing through our Alpha 2 phase.
Nice.
Which brings us to our sponsor segment. This podcast is brought to you by Garden and a Goat. Yeah, we are done with our Alpha 1. We had some Alpha play tests. We got a couple final play tests that were sort of like closed private friends and family. We only did like 6 to 8 of these. I think we'll be up to like 7 or 8 by the time we're done. But a personal walkthrough with people, direct feedback, lots of Q&A, sort of like asking how it was going. And now we've got the phase where we're going to try to get to feature complete, kind of. So we're going to get our second biome done, and we're going to try to get most of the rest of the features in. There's quite a bit of work to do, but I'm really excited, and I'm really excited about the second biome. It's going to be really fun. So that'll be unveiled soon. Check that out in our Discord, gardenandagoat.com/Discord. You can jump in there, ask for access to the Alpha 2. We've got a handful of people that have already sort of signed up in there, and I will be getting those people keys. If we get a million people in there, then we may have to limit it. But right now, anyone who goes in there and asks will be signed up for Alpha 2, which we hope will be out in about 4 to 6 weeks. Maybe a little bit longer if we want to get all of the features out there first. Yeah, Lucy, you're on the list. You were on the list before anyone else was on the list. You were actually number 1 because you were on the list for Alpha 1, but I requested specifically for Lucy to wait until Alpha 2 because I'd like some of the usual suspects, the known people I know, to be fresh and not have seen it in Alpha 1 when they get to Alpha 2, so it's all new, because we will have like a new player experience that'll be part of it too, which is fun. Anyway, enough of that. This podcast is also brought to you by Alea Iacta Est, our guild, aie-guild.org. We did hear that in 2026, there may be an opportunity for a global AIE meetup. The Frog Pants community, Nerdtacular, was a thing that used to happen. There was about 8 of those that happened over the course of the last 15 years. Hasn't happened since before COVID. A new Nerdtacular. It's sort of like a con, but there's only 500 people there. We've had a big group of AIE there in the past because that was one of the ways that whole community started. So getting 40 or 50 AIE people all together in real life is really cool. So that is now been announced. It's not planned out. We don't have dates and we don't have a location, but first half of 2026 is what Scott Johnson has said. So keep an eye out for that. We may have opportunity for somewhere in Utah in the first half of 2026 to have a in-person AIE meetup with people from all over the world. That'd be really cool.
Wow.
This podcast is also brought to you by all of you out there watching and listening, everybody in the chat room right now. It's super cool for us to have a bunch of friendly faces always cheering us on and giving us notes and news. Like Forster Altars is coming out in June, and that may be worth a look. It's because it's going to be on Game Pass. Never heard of it. I will have to look that up. I think it was on one of the lists, but I didn't know what it was, and I haven't seen any trailers, or it hasn't been pushed into my face by the algorithms yet. So it must not exist. Yeah, that's how that works. So yeah, I'll check that out. Thank you, Forster. But yeah, everybody there in the chat room and everybody who chimes in afterwards, jumps in our Discord. We really appreciate that. So thank you. All right, Sema, you have a mission. I have a mission, and it sounds like this.
Find the Fremen. Wake the sleeper. You will know when it is done.
So that is the Bene Gesserit mother, who you can see already that little cutscene where she gives you your marching orders. If you download the character creator for Dune Awakening, which you can get right now, you can go in and do the full character creator experience, including choosing your backstory steps, doing all the character customization of your face in your face, and then
getting your name, or do you even get a name?
No, you don't.
No, you're
pick
playing
a name.
Yeah, that's right.
But I also think the name is like got a hashtag number after it in the actual character profile. So I think anybody can pick any name they want. I don't think the names are limited in that way. Because I picked Max and I got it in the closed beta or the weekend beta, and I wouldn't have if it wasn't. And then somebody said, "Oh, are you Max hashtag blah, blah, blah?" I'm like, "Oh, I guess I am." So, 1469 or whatever it was. You can also then see this little story cinematic that they wrap around the character creator, which is the intro to the game. And the Bene Gesserit mother, you're a prisoner. In fact, I didn't really know why you were a prisoner. You're a prisoner, and the Bene Gesserit pulls you out. She asks you some questions. She asks you what your background is. She determines if you're lying. She tells you to put your hand in the box, holds the Gam Jabbar to your neck and says, we need you to go to Arrakis. We need you to seek out the Fremen are missing. They've been obliterated by the Sardaukar. There was a pogrom, and they've all been, in theory, killed, but maybe not. So she says, find the Fremen, wake the sleeper. We don't know what that means. You will know when it is done, okay? Because the quest log will have a check mark next to it. I guess. Maybe that's how we'll know that it is done. So then she sends you, but then she also says, now don't take your hand out of the box because an animal will gnaw off its own limb to escape the pain, and we can only be served by humans. And they don't show you like screaming with your hand in the box. It fades away at that point, but you can do it. And then whatever you create in the character creator, when you start the game, it saves that, and you can just use that character if you want. You can also change it, but you can use that character if you want when you launch the game. It worked that way for the beta weekend, and in theory, it's supposed to work that way for the launch on June 5th for early access, June 10th for full release. So that's nice, because in these kinds of games, when there's a little bit of a rush to get into a server and try to link up with your friends and try to get things together, get everyone together. It's daunting to have to like sit there and either rush through a character creator or to spend your time and then be like an hour late to the launch of the game. So I did see. So Damone Kim is a content creator. Does a good job. He's a little bit more real than a lot of content creators. He's not like, Dune Arrakis is a new game coming out this summer for June 5th. He's like a real person. So he makes some good content.
Right. Yeah.
He has a video out there that we're commenting on earlier today that's like how to get with your friends, because I'll go through it the way the server structure is laid out. There's sort of like shards within a server, and you can only have 40 concurrent players in a shard. And it's roughly that, and they're gonna, they might allow like 100 players on if it's shaking out that only 40 players are logging on at a time. But because of that limit in a siege, in one of those subservers, it might be hard to connect with your friends. His advice, he says this in the video, is basically make sure you take off work that day. Okay, quit your job, sell all your worldly possessions.
So don't take the day off.
Don't take the day off of work for any game launch. Because inevitably for game launches, then like the servers are late, or, well, we have problems bringing the servers up. It won't be until tonight. And you already took the day off of work and you're sitting around twiddling your thumbs.
Or something's going to happen in your actual life and you're going to need that day off.
Right.
And you
just
wasted it.
Yeah, you wasted your vacation day. But yes, so I played tons and tons of it. You want to hear about it, Sema? I
think we're gonna hear about it.
Okay, you're gonna have to like jump in and cut me off because I'm feeling like, let's see, I don't want to go for 2 hours in this podcast, and I don't want it to just be an info dump. Also, you guys can like go through some of the the fun. There's plenty of content out there, and there's more and more content coming out, and there's a lot of content that has been coming out for sort of like the content creators that played in this beta weekend. So what we got is some content creators have played last month for a few weeks. And then this was 4 days over the beta weekend, Friday morning till Monday afternoon. And you got to play through mostly the first sort of 3 zones. It's kind of 2 zones. There's like the starting zone, which is pretty big. And you might spend 40 hours in the starting zone. Because there's a bunch of points of interest to clear and a bunch of reasons to spend time down there. Then there's the next zone above that. So that's sort of like the copper tier is that first zone. The iron tier is the next zone. And it's sort of broken into 2 halves. But it's sort of like a next zone then. And that's the limit. That's all we got to in the beta weekend. The content creators have gone beyond that. There's a couple more areas beyond that. And then there's like a final area, which is called the Deep Desert. So getting to play through just those first 3 zones, I played dozens of hours and still had pretty much touched everything, all of the game systems, and at least a representative sample of all of the points of interest and the major, the bigger points. But still could have doubled that in just those zones and could have continued playing in just those zones. Like if the beta weekend was still going on, I would still be putting in as much free time as I could every night, just in those zones. There are plenty of content. So it's a lot going on down there.
Hey, Max.
Yes.
That's how they get you.
Having all of that content? Yeah.
No, having a beta with a cutoff.
Yeah, to that. But also I think they're like cleaning up there. I mean, there's plenty of things that aren't 100% working yet in the game. They're close.
Yeah, but do you foresee a lot of changes in that jankiness between now and release?
I don't foresee a ton, but definitely some. And they've been doing dev streams before and after and during that beta weekend. And there's like a content manager that's active in the Discord, and basically, there seems to be a lot of, this is already in a build. We couldn't get it out there for the beta weekend. So that's going to be fixed. That's going to be changed. They did have a little bit of a problematic bit of a public PvP event where they must have paid the big names, PewDiePie and Shroud and like the big name streamers. They got like 8 or 10 of them. And they put them on 2 teams and they said, do PvP in the Deep Desert. And these people weren't familiar with the game, for one. And for 2, were just, goofing off and spamming abilities and things like that. It did not come off very well. and they bumped up with jankiness. They bumped into jankiness.
Right away.
Yeah.
Is what I read anyway.
Yes.
But
so do I think some of that's going to be fixed? Yes, some of it definitely is, because they said already while that was going on, they were also sort of like the devs were live streaming while that was happening. And they said, that the stun lock with the melee abilities, that's definitely, that's already fixed. We just couldn't get it out for this build. So we'll get a little bit of that kind of stuff.
I mean, in my many years of playing games, they say that. But their idea of fixed doesn't always match my idea of fixed.
Right.
So maybe they'll adjust some timers.
Yes.
But you'll still hate it, or whatever.
Maybe. For people that do hate it right now, yes, I wouldn't be optimistic that it's completely different and totally fixed.
No, I meant the stun lock specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you yes.
Like they may adjust it so that it's now stun lock isn't useful at all. Or they may adjust it not enough or whatever.
Yes, they could.
This is why I'm not a game developer, right? Like these are hard decisions to make.
Right. Now, even with the purported jank of, like melee combat, some people have said, well, melee combat doesn't feel all that good. And sometimes I didn't even see a lot of that. Like getting stuck in the terrain didn't really happen to me. Getting the vehicles, somebody said, oh, the vehicle, you get flipped over and you can't get it flipped back over. Didn't happen to me. And I rode around for hours. So even some of that, there's less of that than in other production survival, multiplayer survival games that are already out there that people love and have fun with today. There's less of it. So yes, there's some of it. And if you're used to a super well balanced first class PvP experience, like Fortnite or Call of Duty, is it going to be jankier than that? Yes. Is it less janky than like Ark? Yes.
Yeah.
And Force Gaming in his review video after the beta basically said that is there janky stuff in here? Yes. Is it going to stop me from playing? No, I would still be playing this minute if the servers were still up. So it must not be that bad. If yes, we could point it out, but I would be playing it right now, and enough of it also feels really good. So it's fine.
Yeah. And he did say that the melee felt a little better than in the alpha that he played in previously. So, I mean, some progress.
And we're saying the melee versus the ranged combat is kind of a deal. So there's one thing that I got to experience a little bit is this sort of the 4 starting combat classes, and then there's 1 non-combat class. And I played 3 out of the 5 then. So there's Mentat, Bene Gesserit, Trooper, and Swordsman are the 4 combat ones. And then Planetologist is like a kind of like a non-combat tree that you can pick up where you can get bonus to mining, bonus to scanning, find more resources, repair things faster.
But it's not like you can be a completely non-combat player and still survive, right? You still have to be able to fight, right?
Yes, you do in this game. Because the scavengers and the enemies all around, you can't go you can't ride around the block without the scavengers shooting at you, and you need to go be clearing out their little camps and killing the scavengers to get some of their resources. It's a combat game in that way. Not PvP, you don't have to PvP, but PvE combat where you're fighting the NPCs, you do need to do significant amount of combat.
I mean, you could PvP, but it's just really hard to run into somebody, is what I understand. In this part of the game, anyway.
That's what he said in his video. I did not experience it being that hard or difficult to see other people, or he must have been on like a really unpopulated server or something, because I went into one of the wrecks. So there's a couple crashed spaceships. So there's only like 3 points of interest that are PvP in those lower zones. Those 3 points of interest are these set piece crashed spaceships. And they have some really good resources in them, not exclusive. So you can get the resources elsewhere, but you'll get more and quicker resources going to these places. I went to one and nobody was there, but it was also filled with poison and I didn't have a way to combat it. And the chests were empty. So somebody must have already had cleared it out. And those are shared chests in the PvP areas. In the PvE areas, the rest of all of these zones, they're not. You can go loot them and it's your personal loot. The second wreck I went to, there were 2 dudes standing outside and they started trying to shoot me and they were players. So I didn't have problem. I ran away. So I didn't, 50% of all of the PvP locations that I went to we had PvP player versus player fighting going on. So I didn't seem to not be able to find it. But we'll see. I wouldn't mind if it's kind of like hard to find or you kind of need to seek it out. There's potentially an opportunity there because, and this is one of my concerns, is what is the end game? The end game in this is the deep desert. And the deep desert has some of the highest end resources and the highest concentrations of those resources. But the deep desert is enormous. It's like bigger than the entire map of all of Conan Exiles. It's bigger. It's 10 times, like 5 times bigger, 10 times bigger than those 2 starting zones that we played in the beta weekend. It's enormous. So, but it's also fed by, like a stack of 10 of those sub servers that have 40 to 100 people on them. It's like fed by a stack of 10 of those or even more. So you could have hundreds of players across this giant zone. But if it's really spread out and you have an opportunity to like skirt the edges and go find a pocket of resources and go get them, even though you're a PvP player, but you got to keep an eye out and like run away if some dudes come sweeping in on their ships, then fine. I will be okay with that. I would even be okay with some of that PvP danger. It's not the most comfortable thing to navigate, but I could navigate it. So we'll see. We'll see as far as that goes, as far as the end game goes. There's plenty of other, the hundreds of hours outside of even before you even get to that PvP zone. That's just super fun. And I can't wait.
Oh, I mean, with a lot of games, if you get 100 hours of fun out of it, that's a great deal. So, I mean, maybe you don't need the end game in this game.
Right. Exactly. And I may be fine with that. I may be fine with playing the early and mid game, get the 100 hours in, and then be done. And if they add expansion content, and they are going to be adding expansion content, it's built into the deluxe edition, the DLC. There's not a cash shop, but there is this DLC battle pass and DLC that you'll be able to buy. And they have this plan of every 3 to 6 months releasing additional story missions and potentially map content. And if you play for 100 hours and then you take some time off and you come back when they have another update and you play for another 50 hours, and I'm good with that. That sounds great to me. Because I've got lots of games to play. I don't need a game that's my entire life and personality for, the next 2 years. I don't want that game because
life and all that.
New Overlords Podcast, the Dune podcast, where Max plays Dune and Sema puts up with him chatting about it every week over and over again. Welcome to our podcast. That is not what we want.
So that's how you could go forward in time playing Dune for a long time because DLCs and all. What about like making a new character? Is that even a thing?
Yes. No. Yes and no. You could have quite a bit of fun making new characters, but you can only have one character per server. So yes and no.
Right. So like a very typical game loop for an MMO is alts. You play alts.
Yes.
You create new characters, you play them through the story, you collect different things or maybe the same things over and over again, but not this game.
However, in this game, you can unlock all of the classes and all of their abilities slowly over time, all on one character.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something you could do for 400 hours. You kind of could like respec yourself into like a level 1 mentat, and you were playing a combo Bene Gesserit trooper, and then like grind out the levels that'll get you the unlocks to get all of the points in the mentat tree. So you could definitely do that and have a lot of fun doing that over time as well. And that will take you hundreds of hours to even try to unlock everything.
So does that mean after a few hundred hours, possible hours in the game, there'll be people in the PvP endgame that have more trees unlocked than?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
They definitely will. Now you can only slot 3 active and 3 passive abilities at a time.
Okay.
So it might not matter. They could have everything possible unlocked because they they played for 1,000 hours, but they're still going to build a class ability where they put their 3 active and their 3 passive abilities together with their good weapons and armor that they've seeked out and built in the game. Crafting matters and is a big deal. But yeah, that doesn't, them being level, and you do level up even. So them being level 300 versus you being level 30 may not make any difference at all.
Yeah, and that would be awesome.
Yeah, that does
So when
balance
you
it to
went
some
to
degree.
when you went to that down ship and there are those guys outside it that started shitting you, did you get the sense, and not like you would necessarily know 100%, but did you get the sense that that's what they were doing, just hanging out waiting for people?
That is the sense that I got. They were flanking the entrance door to the wreck, and they were facing out of the wreck, not into the wreck.
And was that the only time you had any kind of a PvP closeness?
Yep.
In your
But
dozens of hours?
that was the only time I visited. That was the one of 2 times that I visited one of those PvP wrecks specifically because there was just so much to do. So
Right.
I just didn't have the opportunity to go seek it out other times.
Yeah.
If I had hung around, even like if I had hung around the first wreck, I could have hung around potentially long enough for somebody to show up and then try to battle them. I don't think the penalties for dying are all that bad. I think you keep your armor and your weapons. You just drop like loot in your inventory, which could be like new weapons that you've looted if you didn't equip it. Any resources that you picked up in the wreck. So that kind of stuff you would drop if you're PvPing, but you won't drop like your armor and your weapons that you have equipped, the stuff on your toolbar, that kind of stuff. So the penalties for dying exist, but they're not that bad. So that again, that may make the PvP, it's not like full loot PvP, so it might not feel that bad to die or to like get caught by PvPers out in the deep desert.
Yeah.
One thing they really nailed that's fun to talk about with this game that they really nailed is the Dune vibe, and just the feel of being on Arrakis, and the survival aspect of surviving on Arrakis. So what do you think of when you think of Arrakis and Dune? Is, well, water. You gotta be wearing a still suit because you're gonna die in the desert, and you die of exposure in the desert. So of the things you need to survive in a survival game, they've done a great job here in making thematic survival elements. So you have to survive sandstorms. So sandstorms come blowing in. You get a weather alert, but it could be between 1 and 3 minutes. So you might only have 60 seconds to seek shelter. If you're out in the sandstorm, it can kill you. In the late game, supposedly you get like a still tent that you could like plop down and like keep yourself safe if you're like out in the deep desert or something. But I had to like go find rocks to hide under or try to get back to my base. So the sandstorm, that's cool. The sun, you can't be out in the sun in the direct sunlight in the daytime too long, or you'll get sunstroke. And then as soon as you get sunstroke, your stamina goes down. You start draining water immediately, and you'll dehydrate and die. So you got the sandstorms, you got the sun. You got the SWTOR. So at nighttime, even though you don't have the direct sunlight, there's these patrol ships for the SWTOR. They're if you're not familiar with Dune lore, they're the Emperor's really bad stormtrooper squads of killers, beastly killers.
Dune Nazgul.
Yeah. It's more really stormtroopers. So they're like the Empire stormtroopers. But they make their shots, they don't miss. So these really cool looking slow moving shuttle ships are like flying in the sky, and they have these searchlights on the ground, and they cover a big area, and these searchlights start like sweeping across the ground. If you get caught in a searchlight, they drop on you a stasis field that's like 30 meters in radius, so 60-meter diameter stasis field that you're stuck in. You're stuck in it only for about 30 seconds. But what starts happening then is the SWTOR start parachuting down from their shuttle ship then. And when that stasis field drops, you better either clear out or be ready to fight very difficult, very tough squad of Sardaukar that are coming to kill you. So there, got to survive the Sardaukar at night. You got to dodge those lights. So you got the sun during the day, you got the Sardaukar at night. You got the sandstorms.
How easy are they to avoid? I mean, dodge, stay away from.
Pretty easy to stay away from a dodge. So not too bad, but it's still a threat and you feel it.
Out for them all the time. Yeah. No, I get it.
Like I got caught in it a couple times and I didn't mean to. I got caught in the stasis field. One, because I wasn't watching where it was coming from. And another because I thought it was far enough away and it was behind some rocks. And then the shuttle came around and swept its light across me and boom, I'm in a stasis field. One of them I was in a stasis field and I didn't realize what it was at first, what was going on. And then, so I stuck around a little too long and then the Sardaukar were there. I was still able to escape from them, even though they started shooting me. I hopped on my bike or ran away or something. But it was enough of a threat that I felt threatened. And did get caught. It wasn't like you'll never get caught. I did get caught. So then there's the worm, the sandworms. So there's rocky patches, and in between those rocky patches, there's kind of open sand. And if you're out in the open sand, you make noise. And depending on what you're doing, you make more or less noise. And it's kind of like on a timer, how much noise you're making, it builds up. And if it builds up enough, well, then the worm surfaces. And it's not hard to get the worm to surface. If you're just walking across any of the open areas, by the time you get to the other side, you will probably have summoned a worm. So if you stay out on the open sand, the worm if the worm breaches, you can see it in the distance. It's like a football field or two away. If you see it breach out of the sand, it's coming for you. It will be on you within about 15 seconds.
Wow.
And if you get caught by the worm, if the worm eats you, if you don't get to a rocky area, which it can't go in the rocky areas, just like the movies and the book, then you die and you lose everything you were wearing, all of your inventory, your speeder bike, anything you had with you. It's all permanently gone. Gone. The worm ate it. Shai-Hulud does not give back. Does not return anything. So
that's rough.
It's rough, and you feel the threat, of the worm, which then makes a couple of the things that happen out there in that open sand a little bit more interesting, because there are these little non-PvP crashed ships that you'll see dropping out of the sky because there's a war going on. You'll see them dropping out of the sky and crash into the desert. And you can run out to them and use your scanner to cut them open and get some really good resources out of them. But banging on those wrecks to try to cut them open, that summons the worm. So if you want to, it's risk reward. You got to go out there and you start banging on the wreck, trying to get something out of it. And then the worm comes, and then you didn't get it. But do you wait an extra second to try to loot it? Or do you right away? It's fun. It's a threat that matters, and it is unforgiving. So there's risk reward, and it's a fun threat. So that's pretty much the threats to survive. And then water. And water is a big deal.
When the worms pop up, do you run away from them or do you kill them?
Oh, you cannot kill the worm.
Okay.
There's no way to kill a worm currently in the game. No number of players with any amount of.
You just need for it not to catch you.
Yes, you need to run away, escape. That's one of the limiting factors between the South Haga Basin, the starting zone, the copper zone, and the iron zone. Is there's a bigger expanse of open desert between the copper and iron zone that if you try to walk across it, you will die to a worm. It's too long for you to walk across and get to the other side before a worm will have caught up to you. So what you need to do is you need to get a speeder bike. So there's these sand speeders. So you need to have progressed enough to unlock the ability to construct or find or get a sand bike to cross over into that next zone. So that sort of gates the progression there just a little bit. in a very lore accurate and fulfilling way. You don't feel, it's not like there's some big gate and you need an achievement before you can walk through that force field.
Right.
No, it's really thematically, it feels just like a part of the world, and you don't realize it's a progression gate. You don't even realize that's what's going on, and it is, and it feels right, and it feels good.
That's cool.
Yeah, so they really nailed that kind of stuff. All of the survival elements and like water. So there's no food. You don't have to worry about starving, but you do have to worry about water. And in the early game, you have like no water containers. You get to lick dew off of dew leaves on the ground. But that'll only fill up like a quarter of your water bar, or like the third. Yeah, it'll only fill up the max of a third of your water bar. And that's it. Then you pretty quickly start getting into being able to drain blood from enemies, and a blood refiner that turns blood into water. You can drink blood straight, but it makes you sick, and it depletes your maximum health, and but still will hydrate you. So in an emergency, you could do that. But even like the little guide, the NPC guide who's like talking you through the start will say, what, you still licking dew off the leaves? Well, we need to get you, we need to get you set up so you can start refining, capturing some water and get yourself a water container and a liter jon. And this is where you're going to do it. So go to this area, blah, blah, blah. So that feels really impactful as well. But water continues to be a key resource throughout the game. So not only do you need to keep yourself hydrated, and that gets easier and easier and easier over time, but it's needed for all of the crafting beyond the crafting tier as well. You can't make iron ingots without water as a crafting component to cool the machine or whatever it does. And there's more and more. There's like 6 tiers of crafting tiers in the game. We only had the first 2 in the weekend beta, and each of those tiers takes more and more water for each thing you want to craft. So not only do you now have to find more ways to gather more water and store more water, but then, and there's machines then that will help you store. There's like water evaporators and still machines and advanced blood extractors and all of this kind of stuff. So now you're getting like the progression of the machines, the progression of the crafting, all of that starts to feel really like it matters and it feels good, and you feel that progression, and it's very cool that way too. And very thematic and part of the Dune universe. Water not only as a survival element, but like as a part of the world that the control of water is part of that metaphor, which drives the Dune universe on Arrakis, especially. So it's they fit it in really well. They did a really good job with that. Yeah. All right, we've got a million things else I could talk about. Crafting is good, feels good, matters. You get like schematics to build stuff, but the schematics are also limited. You're not only getting a schematic to build something, but you're getting like the Imperial, I forgot what they called it, like the Imperial license to build it. So you might like unlock a schematic for a suspensor belt, which allows you to float up in the air and like just death from above. But you might only unlock when you unlock it, you only unlock the ability to build one. And you could go farm that pattern to build, 3 or 4 or however many you find it over and over again. And they're in set locations. Sometimes you might have to come back 40 minutes later and do the little dungeon again. It's like one of these open world testing stations or whatever. But yeah, they're limited in what you can, how many times you can build it. And then your gear breaks and you have to repair it. And each time you repair it, the maximum durability, there's a red bar which goes down from the top most durability. So it's a very limited lifetime. Ultimately, there's a limited lifetime. Each time you repair it, you can repair it a little bit less each time, basically. Now, I didn't have anything really break permanently by the time I was done playing. So stuff does last a fair amount of time. But you will need to be like farming stuff and remaking it over time as well, including the really cool endgame rare items that you might find already made or you might craft for yourself. Eventually, they'll break, and you gotta make new ones. So it makes crafting matter. And you can find like assembled weapons and armor, but it's very rare, and it's usually already lacking some durability. So crafting really matters in this game, and that feels good.
I feel like that's kind of a hallmark of survival games, is that, yeah, everything you make matters. I mean, or things that you make matter.
Yep. Which they better.
I mean, some of it might be, oh, I just want a cooler house, or I need a different color of this, or whatever. But yeah, they help you survive. So is the basic game loop of this that you go out, clear the camps of the bad guys, gather resources, come back, make your gear upgrades, add to your building, whatever you call your building, and then go out and clear another camp, and then come back and do it all, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty much the loop. And to try to get to, I mean, there is a story, so you're trying to get through that story too. Find the Fremen, wake the sleeper. But in order to do that story, you need to progress. You need to be able to get to the next zone, and you can't get to the next zone until you have the better still suit, and you can't get the next better still suit until you farm the resources. Yep.
Yes, like the one example you gave, you can't get across that one expanse until you can make a motorbike.
Exactly. So with that in mind, you're driven to progress even if you're just trying to just do the story. Intrinsically, you're driven to progress because that's part of the fun of the games, is you want to get better and better armor and better weapons, and they're at higher and higher tiers, but you can't get to that. You can't like even farm the resources for the next tier until you get outfitted from the previous tier, which is like all of these kind of crafting, crafting building games. But that's a fun progression loop in and of itself. So that's cool.
Right. I mean, that's what games are about. It's like, how is it fun in the long term?
Yep.
And in this game, in this iteration, it's what you just described.
Now they do have base building and house building as well. And they get more and more elaborate the more things you unlock. And there's ways to unlock in-game, like doing some of the PvE content will unlock skins for your base building pieces, or like building sets. So that's a thing to go after. And more advanced components, like these big shield walls that you don't have to like open a door to fly your ornithopter in. We didn't even get to making ornithopters in the beta weekend. It wasn't even unlocked, and we're still too many things to do. But like here, what they're showing here is like making this little tank kind of vehicle, but building this big base wrapped around this armor. And like what you see here, the decorations of all the carpets and the couches and the pottery on the tables, that's all cosmetic stuff that you need to like grind out and unlock and then build to decorate your base. You could, if you're playing with a big, so you said you have to be in combat to play this game. Someone does. You could play with a big group, and there will probably be a small subset of players, but there probably will be players out there that don't do combat. Maybe they're only doing like the crafting, base building, managing the base for a bigger group. They're just, doing all the decorating. And so like people will go out and do the combat and bring the resources back. They'll be doing like the refining and the crafting and the decorating and having a cool, really fun time with all of that, which will have more and more cosmetic stuff unlocked for it over time too with the content updates, I'm sure, because that's what Funcom did with Conan Exiles as well. So somebody has to go fight the bad guys, but maybe not you.
Right.
But is that enough?
I felt like it was a little bit that way when we were playing Return to Moria. It was like, except that the bad guys do come into your camp.
Yeah, and that here they don't. So right now there's no, as long as you pay the upkeep, as long as you have your generators running, your base won't ever decay and it never gets attacked. In the future, will they have like the ability to assault bases in the deep desert? Maybe. But that doesn't.
What does that mean though? As long as you keep your generators running, what do you have to do to keep them running?
You have to put power cells into the generator, and the maximum duration of power cells is 20 days, I think it is. So if you fill up your generator, which I was able to do pretty easily just by running around for 15 minutes in the early game, get enough power cells to max out the generator. It's like 20 days of time then. So you could then leave the game and log out for 20 days and your base, nothing will happen. Longer than that,
Okay.
it'll start to decay.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in some of the other areas,
So you can't take
there
a
might
break
also
from
be
this thing.
taxes that you have to pay. So there might be an upkeep cost as well.
Gotcha. I mean, it would be hard to come back if you took like a year off and then everything you built was in ruins.
Now, the devs have said what you would want to do in that case is you can blueprint your entire building.
Oh, okay.
So there's a special tool to blueprint it. And then when you put down the blueprint again, it's all holograms of each of the building pieces. And you then need to fill them back in. But as you then dismantle your base, so it's like these green hologram pieces that I'm showing on the screen now. You can lay out your whole base in holograms first, or as a blueprint that you buy from somebody or that you saved.
Oh, nice.
And then fill it
I
in.
like that. Yeah.
So one of the things they talked about is you could be an architect in the game, like player versus player to player architect, where all you do is design really cool buildings that are either like easy to build or defensible for PvP or something like that, and then put the plans for the architect, the blueprint, on the player auction house and sell them. But what they said was, if you're going to be out longer than, if you're going to be out a month or more, you could dismantle your whole base, blueprint it, dismantle your whole base, and then there's like a bank system in the major social hub cities where maybe you could save all your resources and put it all in the bank, and then come back a year later, pull all your resources out of the bank, drop your hologram on a suitable location on the ground, and fill it all back in, and lickety split, clickety clack, bang, bam, Bob's your uncle.
So that's pretty forgiving. So you have like that initial 20 days to realize, hey, maybe I'm not going to play this for a while. Better
Right.
go pick up my stuff.
Yeah, which then cleans up the locations too for the people that do want to play and maybe want one of those prime base locations that you were squatting on early and now aren't going to use. So yeah,
So this kind of like one of the concerns I heard was that the whole 50 to 100 to 150 hours it takes to get to end game is like sort of characterized by no PvP, and then you get to end game and it's like 100% PvP. But it sounds like it kind of doesn't matter, because if you don't want a PvP, you don't really lose anything other than not being able to go in that zone so much. But I mean, you can get you can get similar things elsewhere, right?
yes.
Even if
Now,
it's less
still
common
remains
or
to be
harder to farm or whatever.
right. So it still remains to be seen if you can get everything.
Yeah.
Or if there will be like a couple rare schematics for like rare endgame loot that you can only get in the deep desert, and you have to either dodge PvP or you have to go into the PvP zone to get it. That remains to be seen, and it's not clear. However, everything in the lower zones, you didn't have to go into those PvP areas if you didn't want to. But also, if you wanted to seek out PvP, you probably could have gone and hung around those areas, which aren't small. Like those rec areas are pretty big. You probably could have gone and hung around them and waited for people that also wanted to mix it up a little bit, and gotten into some scuffles and PvP'd. And while you're doing it, there's also really good resources in there too, and more, the risk reward is, I think there's more resources of those a little bit rarer resources that you could be getting out of there that gives you incentive to do it too. So
For sure.
So yeah, I think you could be PvPing in the first hour if you really wanted to. And if enough people want to.
Yeah. Right.
So
Right. Especially, can you PvP with your friends, against your friends?
I think kind of know. I was confused about how friendly fire works. There is some amount of friendly fire. You can't shoot your friends, but grenades and like AoE poison clouds can hurt your friends in open PvP battles. So you do need to sort of have some sort of awareness of who your friends are, which is hard because there aren't nameplates on you, on your friends, or on the enemies. It's not like red lights over the enemy players. So when things get crazy and you get turned around, you might not know who your friends are. And so don't throw a grenade at them unless you're sure what's going on.
Right. And don't trust that shadowy shape over there either.
It's also even a little bit hard when you're out in the open world, even PvE, to know who's an NPC and who's a player. And I did this a couple times, and I think everybody did. Start running around, and you're clearing out of one of these little camps, and the small camps only have like three mobs and 3 enemies. Another player runs up, and you think it's another mob, and you start like shooting them or like whacking them with the sword, and nothing's happening. And then they jump up and down, and you jump up and down, and then you go your separate ways because you didn't realize, and they didn't realize you were not an NPC, and you didn't realize they weren't an NPC.
Right.
That happened multiple times.
I mean, speaking of NPCs, do you collect a group of companions that'll be working on your base? Like in Conan, didn't you have to like enslave people and get them to run your?
Yeah, that was a significant part of Conan, and that is not in this game.
So you're doing all the work yourself. You don't have like minions.
You're right. You don't have minions. You don't have a way to get minions. It's not part of the. It's not part of the progression. There's a lot of NPCs around because you're getting like the trainers, and there's a mission board, and you go to there's 2 trade posts, one in the lower zone, one in the east part of the upper zone, in those 2 starting areas, the Haga Basin. And there's NPCs in there that you can talk to. There's the houses, or Harkonnen and Atreides, and you can align yourself with one of the houses, and you talk to basically the spy masters for each of those houses, and they want you to do things for them. And so there's characters and NPCs and voice acting and the story. So it's not a dead world in that way, but nobody that you're that you then like recruit or becomes part of your squad or becomes a companion to help fight with you. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I totally did not think it was dead. In fact, that's one of the sort of hallmarks of this game, it sounds like, is that there's always something going on.
Yeah.
There's very few moments where you're just like, kicking back, having a mint julep on the beach.
Yeah. Okay, well, there's tons more, and I encourage people to go look it up, like what spice is and how it works and why it might be important. I didn't experience it too much. I did use it. It's sort of like a drug that enhances your combat abilities. I saw some PvPers in some of the videos using it a lot, so maybe it's more important than I felt it was, but there's spice. You got to mine spice, and spices is a big deal. Okay, so spice-infused building materials are a thing. Okay, so look that up. There's 2 parts to the end game.
Building materials, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
but how do you get spice?
So there's spice blows in the sand, and you'll see it from like miles away.
Oh, okay.
And then there's a patch of spice on the sand, and you can sort of like sift it with your hands to get small amounts. Or there's this sort of like shock stick that does a static collection of all the spice in like a 10-meter radius into a pile that then you can pick it up all at once. But then the worms come. So you got to like get some spice and then run away and then like come back and maybe get a little bit more spice. And so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is kind of cool.
But then like the spice-infused building materials, like spice-infused copper ingots and spice-infused iron ingots, those I only got from locations. I couldn't make those on my own. Maybe there will be an advanced way to make them, but that was more like a higher end building resource that you had to get from a point of interest dungeon kind of area. So that's a big part of it. There's also another part of the end game that I didn't really get to experience or even hear much about, which is the Landsarad, which is sort of like a political political player versus player, but more of like a PvE player versus player competition, kind of like Conquest. So Lance Red will have objectives where you need to deliver 10 speeder bikes, and that will like rank you up in the Lance Red rankings. And then your guild, I think, can like win out, or your house that you're aligned to wins out. And I'm not very clear on all of how that works, but that's a part of the end game also. So it's not just the deep desert PvP. There's a little bit of that Lancerad stuff, which could have some PvP elements associated with it too. I'm not completely clear. But yeah, so that's another part of it that will be something to watch for and look out for and learn about as the game launches. Most of that's all under NDA right now. They haven't talked very much about it. The big social hubs, there's 2 big cities, I guess. They can go and like see bunches of other players, and that's where it's sort of like the auction house system is, and in-game economy. There's that. That's fun. Bigger and bigger vehicles. You can build. The first thing you build is your little sand bike. Then you can build a sand buggy. Then you build an ornithopter. Then you build a big ornithopter that can carry vehicles, because then you're going to build a spice harvester. And you build a spice, you take your carrier ornithopter, and you lift up your spice harvester, and you fly out into the deep desert onto a spice blow, and your spice harvester gets dropped onto the sand and starts harvesting the spice until the sandworm comes, or until PvPers come.
I feel like this sounds like a really good way to use an IP to make a survival game. It just sounds like they hit on, all 6 cylinders.
Yes, absolutely. All
like,
of the
I
cylinders.
feel like even if you didn't know anything about Dune, it would still be good.
One of the things, maybe to wrap it up, that we'll have to sort of see how it goes into the future. A really interesting concept with that, because I agree. I think they've just done a wonderful job with using the IP to its fullest extent. But they're also limited by the IP to some degree. And this is Forced Gaming had a good comment on this, is there's no like bigger and bigger monster, and now we're going to go fight the dragons, and now we're going to go fight. So what does like the long-term end game kind of look like for more content releases? Maybe you can fight a sandworm at some point, but then it's just like other humans. It's all just humans all the way down. There's no like more monsters or creatures or aliens, or so what happens when the next dungeon comes? Is it going to feel really limiting and boring and like more of the same, that you aren't going to be able to like do something new and interesting from a PvE perspective? Maybe.
It's going to be a sandworm, but it's 10% bigger.
What is this, a sandworm for ants? And just to be at least 3 times bigger. Yeah, so we shall see. All right.
Lucy is telling us it's time to be done.
Yeah, I knew this one would go long. We're at 90 minutes. It is time to wrap it up. But as I said, lots more to experience. As you can tell, it's all in my head. I spend time thinking about this in my spare time right now. It's can't wait. Can't wait for the launch. If it was up now, I would be, what I'd be doing? I'd be riding the sands using my scanner to find buried treasure that's been unearthed by the sandworms. And then I would try to be picking it up.
I like how specific that is.
Because it's a thing I didn't even talk about. But it's like these buried treasures that you could just like idle activities, like going out into the deep sands where the sandworms are going to come and catch you. But you use your scanner and you'd like uncover buried treasure, rare, but you can find it. And so I spent my last like hour of the beta weekend just roaming the sands and looking for treasure because it was fun. So plenty of things to do, plenty of stuff to look forward to. It's going to be really fun for me. So I think Jay Melman said it's not really like necessarily a game for everybody. And that's completely true. It
Right.
may not be, but this is
And that's
definitely
true of
my
every
kind of
game.
game. Right. But I'm jonesing for more and can't wait. So that'll be cool. That is it for today. Anything? You got anything else to say, Sema? Because now is the time.
I kind of feel like you should maybe try out a game sort of independent of the IP. Even if it's an IP that you don't resonate with, maybe the game will still be great. Like, I'm not a big fan of Dune, but it sounds like you don't really have to be to
Right.
enjoy this if you're a fan of this kind of game.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I need a more open mind, but not. I mean, it's already not my kind of game. But I mean, yeah.
It's
IP
built
wise.
on the Dune lore, but another fun thing that they did is it's an alternate reality. So it's not Paul
Right,
Atreides.
right.
You don't have to be Paul. And there is no Paul,
Yeah.
and it's not like everybody's trying to be Paul
Right.
or everybody's
you're
trying
not
to be
gonna-
Luke Skywalker.
And you're not going to go into a tavern and see Paul.
Right.
Like in Lotro, you can do that.
Yeah. You will see some of the characters in theory. You could see some or hear about some of the characters out of the existing universe. Because it's not, it's an alternate universe where Paul wasn't born. So part of the story was Lady Jessica was instructed by the Bene Gesserit to bear a daughter to Duke Leto in the original book. She defied their orders because they fell in love and he wanted a son. It was an arranged marriage, but it worked for them. And she bore him a son, and that turned out to be Paul. And that's what set off the Kwisatz Haderach and all of that, blah, 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 blah. In this universe, it's the same universe. There's a Duke Leto. He's alive because there was never a Paul. She bore a daughter. She obeyed the Bene Gesserit. She bore a daughter. Duke Leto wasn't assassinated. So that's why there's this war of assassins between the Atreides and the Harkonnen over Dune, because Duke Leto still exists. So it's a lot of those characters, Lady Jessica, Duke Leto, they're around. You didn't encounter them, but they're around.
Right. And if you weren't a Dune fan, then that aspect of it would be kind of lost on you, but you could still, the game could still be a great experience.
Yeah. And it's not like Duke Leto shows up and you're like, who is this? Why do I care about this person? None of that. So
let us share a flagon of mead.
Yes. I see that you have the ring of power in your hand. No, none of that. Which Lord of the Rings does actually pretty well too. Anyway, that is it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
That is it for today. That is enough. Jump in the Discord if you want to ask me more. As I said, I tried everything. I did the testing stations. I played a couple of the classes. I did a hybrid. I built a hybrid build. I did so much, but it wasn't enough. Need more. I've only scratched the surface. So that is it for today. All the feed and subscribe links are on newoverlords.com, and the video's up on YouTube/newoverlords. Jump in our Discord. Love to chat with you any time of the day or night. newoverlords.com/Discord. And you can follow us on all the social networks, and we'll keep you up to date there too. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.